Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and the name of this program is Let's Live with Thurman Greco, and is coming to you from scenic downtown Woodstock, New York, on our public access television, Channel 23, and also on YouTube, Let's Live with Thurman Greco. And there are almost 20 years worth of productions on the YouTube channel. So we are a very active group here, and we have a new guest this evening, and I am so happy that you're here. You are involved in an industry that is very, very close to my heart. And of course, it's local, but it's also planetary. You cannot just say, well, it's Kingston, or well, it's Ulster County, because it's not. But because I am so interested in your subject, I am bringing you these gifts. And I also have the bookmarks, and they have the action guides on the back. And after you've distributed all of these, if you want some more, you just let me know and I'll send you some more.
All right.
Because that's what they're for. I mean,
yeah.
These action guides are really very, very good educational tools. So can you start off by telling us, first of all, what is your name?
Yeah, my name is Diana Lopez, and I am the Ulster County Community Organizer with For the Many. I live in Kingston, and I've been living in Kingston for over 25 years.
Wow. And so what is For the Many?
I'm sorry. So For the Many, we are a grassroots organization bringing all our communities together and to fight for issues that are very important to everyone, to make a life better for everyone. It's to make sure that we get, folks around like housing and healthcare, climate justice, immigration. We really try to adapt to like the conditions we're in at the moment.
So can we talk about homelessness now?
Homelessness?
Yes, can we talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Because that is, that's a crisis now.
Yeah.
That's not just a problem.
Yeah.
It's a crisis.
Yeah.
There are groups of people in the communities that you are working in who spend their days trying to find places where people can sleep just that night.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow, not next week, just get them off the streets tonight. And it's a terrible situation. So how can For the Many help?
So with the housing justice that we do right now, we know that homelessness is a big crisis. It has been, but during the pandemic, it got worse.
Yes.
And some of the situation is regarding like right now there are so many Airbnbs that are displacing families that have lived in those homes for a long time. And from that, it reduces the stock of housing, and that's why more people are becoming homeless. And we are thinking of like what the bigger impact is. The reason why a lot of folks are being displaced is because there's no tenant protections. And so we are fighting for tenant protections at local and state level. So, for example, in the city of Kingston, we passed the good cause eviction legislation that it prevents unlawful evictions for families. And we want that to pass at state level because there is like really no tenant protection at all. So a landlord can just come and be like, I need you out. And there's no way for that person to defend themselves and be like, there's this legislation that, says that you can't kick me out just like that. And a lot of the, some landlords are raising the rent so much that people can't afford to pay it no more that they have to leave. And they do it, so then that way that family leaves, they do some renovations, and then they post it up in Airbnb and in Vrbo, all these like short-term vacation rentals sites, and then the family has no no place to go. They go to DSS, which, you know, DSS sends them to Family of Woodstock, and then Family of Woodstock tries to find them, you know, a place for a night or two. Then they have to go back to DSS, where like the waiting list is just like so long.
It is. It is. People are spending their whole day at the Department of Social Services, and those poor people are frazzled. And you cannot tell me that they are not working, because they are working hard. And they're working all day long to find a place for a person to have a roof over a head that night. And when you talk about renter protections, I have seen in Woodstock, I have observed, I was a witness to a building owner telling the renter, you must get out of here now, because as of Friday, this building is an Airbnb, and I have someone scheduled to come in here Friday morning at 10 o'clock, and you got to be out of here. And here's a person who's been living there for a long time with a jaw hanging out, trying to figure out what in the world happened. I just, you know, it's early in the day, and there's no place to live. When you take a person and you throw them out of a home in the morning, they're not going to have a place to live in the afternoon.
Yeah, and especially with the rents rising so much, like
they're in the thousands. What was in the hundreds before is now in the thousands.
So there's like, and then besides that, they ask for, you know, like credit scores. They ask for background checks. You have to like pay for an application to even be eligible to even apply for.
A woman called me up and was talking to me the other day. She had been trying to find, not a young woman, she had been trying to find, she was evicted from an apartment that she was in because it was going Airbnb. It was turning into a little bed and breakfast. Mm-hmm. And she was fighting tooth and nail, trying to find a place. She felt that she had found an apartment. And then the man came and said, nope, I've decided I'm not going to rent to you. She went through the whole thing, the references, the deposit, she had it, and then he pulled it the week before, you know. So there she was on the street, and then you have these young women that have little children, and they are on the street, and this is an everyday occurrence.
Yes, yeah.
So how did For the Many come about?
So For the Many actually started as all volunteer in Poughkeepsie. And they started around utility justice, the situation with Central Hudson, and they were shutting off services to low-income folks, people with disabilities, people that need medical equipment because of like non-payment or just because they want to shut it off. So they did a lawsuit against Central Hudson where they won, and from that there were some like payment arrangements system that they put in place, and like other things around like discrimination as well. And then from that it went through, they turned to foreclosure, because at that time a lot of folks were also being like, you know, kicked out of their homes. From then, we came into 2016 with the administration that we came, and it turned into like immigration work, because a lot of people were being deported. You know, families were being just like separated, and with, you know, there was like a lot of uncertainty of what was going to happen with the immigrant community at that time. So we started organizing around like the Green Light campaign, because one of the things was that if someone was stopped because they, you know, accidentally passed like a stop sign and they were undocumented, and of course they didn't have a driver's license, that would be like a automatic deportation. And so there was a Green Light Coalition, which was fighting to restore access to driver's license for undocumented, because that was a thing before 9/11.
Does that exist now?
So yes, that campaign was won in 2019. So folks are eligible to get a driver's license, even though they are undocumented, and that makes, you know, safer roads for everyone. That makes families that had to drive with that one because they had to take children to school, work, anything, makes it like more easier to have a interaction with police enforcement as well, right? Because they feel, okay, they're gonna ask me for my driver's license, but here it is. And through that organizing and starting like house meetings and everything for that campaign, a lot of folks expressed the lack of identification, and we started trying to get municipal ID passed in several of the cities we worked in. So it did pass Kingston, Poughkeepsie, Middletown, Newburgh, Woodstock also. I know Woodstock also has a municipal ID program. And yeah, because folks were just like, I can't even get my medication sometimes from the pharmacy because they ask me for an ID. And sometimes they do have their ID from their country, but they're like, we need a state government ID.
Everyone needs an ID. You need an ID. You know, plus the reality of the situation is, if you can't drive, you can't. It's beyond taking the children to school. It's a really difficult situation.
Yeah.
And people who are employable are having problems because they don't have a driver's license, and because they don't have identification. We have to all have identification.
Yeah.
I went to the pharmacy the other day to pick up some medicine for someone that wasn't even myself. And I had to have, I had her identification, but I had to serve my identification in addition. So identification is something that the government requires. And it did not say that you have to be an American citizen. It says you need identification.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that that's finally coming about.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that municipal ID also is like one point toward like getting access to a driver's license, so they can use that as a piece of identification as well. And so it has been like a very amazing thing for community members to be able to have access to that. So from there, we did the Protect Our Courts Act as well. That's a campaign where immigration is not allowed to be inside the court, or following folks when they're leaving court or arriving court, because that was the situation that they knew when that person was going to show up for court, and that's where they would arrest them and deport them. So now, thanks to that passing, now ICE can't be in the courts to arrest folks, and that's like at state level as well. And we also from that and from like the community meetings that we have every month, we also survey folks on like what are the priorities to them, right? What are the issues that are impacting them the most? And so housing and healthcare was like the two big things.
Now, you just mentioned something. You talked about monthly meetings. Are they open to the public?
Oh yeah, they are open to everyone.
Can we talk about where they are, what time they start, how we get there?
Yeah.
Who can come?
So in Kingston, we have them the third Thursday of every month. So the next one that we have is February 23rd. It's at our Kingston office at 13 Grand Street. So it's like right across from the YMCA.
Oh, okay. I know where that is.
Where Planned Parenthood is at the bottom. 2 doors from Citizen Action, and it starts at 7 p.m. We try to make it very accessible to folks, so there's a ramp, we have interpretation, so we do simultaneous interpretation, English and Spanish, so we have these little headphones that folks, and then we do the interpretation. We provide food. Sometimes folks are coming from work, so we have something that they can have. We provide childcare, and if folks need transportation, we can arrange that with other volunteers that are available to do that.
And so that's every third Thursday of the month. So you talked about it in Kingston. Where else do we do?
We also have them in Poughkeepsie. In Poughkeepsie is the second Thursday. The next one is February 16th, if I'm not mistaken. It's a Thursday. It's also 7 p.m. And right now we are going through a move-in transition from office in Poughkeepsie. So the address would be TBD, but same transportation we try to arrange. We have interpretation, food, childcare.
That's wonderful.
And then we also have them in Middletown, and we have them in Newburgh.
Okay, so we are in the Ulster County part. We're in the Kingston area. About how many people attend these meetings?
So it depends. Sometimes we have about 25 folks. Sometimes we have 10 folks. It really depends on like the timing of like, you know, if there's like if there's like a holiday, or if there's
Right.
like sometimes
Well, you
there's
know,
school activities.
I like the idea of 25. To tell me that, well, we're going to have 200 or we're going to have 250, you're not really reaching people. You're talking to a large group of people, but if you've got 25 people, you're getting close. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because when you deal with hunger and you deal with housing and you deal with children, you're on a one at a time situation.
Yeah.
You know, we have housing problems, but the housing problem is that we need to find a home for this child and the family that this child is in.
Yeah.
Or if we have problems with the school, we need to deal with this problem. And you don't do that when you have 300 people at a meeting. I don't know what happens in Middletown, but I'm just, you know, I really feel like the Kingston part is important.
No, yeah, it's about the same numbers in each city, so it really feels like community. It really feels like a moment where folks can feel free to share their concerns, their questions, their anything that they are feeling, or the needs they have. We really try to make space for that. We do a lot of like team building exercise, you know, because it's really nice to get to like for folks to know like, oh, you know, we just talking and we might even know that we live like 2 houses next to each other.
Right.
And you know, that's what it's all about, because that's the way that we can have folks think like, wow, this person is here to fight for me, so I need to be here to fight for that person as well.
That's very important. And how did I find you? I found you last summer.
At was it like our block party?
I don't know. Did you have a booth at Mowers Meadow last summer?
Mowers Meadow. I don't remember. I don't recall.
I think it was at the flea market, because I was very excited.
I
was
remember
very excited.
that I sent you I did because I was checking on my phone, and we do confirmation texts. But I did a confirmation text to you for our block party in Kingston. That was in September. So I don't know if you came to the block party.
No,
It was at the
no.
Santa Cruz Church.
I didn't get it.
So I mean, I know a lot of people in Woodstock as well.
That's wonderful, because that means that you are becoming familiar.
Yeah.
You are becoming part of the community.
Yeah.
To remember exactly where we met means that you're not yet part of the community, but now you're infiltrating, you're working, and that's really, really wonderful.
Yeah, I also attended a couple of the town meetings here in Woodstock when they were doing the municipal ID, trying to pass the municipal ID program.
Did that work?
Yeah.
It did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, we brought a couple folks that you know, gave their testimony of what a municipal ID would do, and then I think like 2 weeks later or so that they voted on it, and then they passed the program, and it was, folks were very excited to have it.
That's good. Well, Woodstock is very forward-thinking. It's a very forward-thinking community. So what are some challenges that you think you're facing now in the coming year? Now that we're here in 2023, what's happening?
I think the challenge is like the urgency on things, because again, it's like, you know, housing is a big urgent need for so many folks, and another is also like in order to pass like these legislations, we need to have like the right electeds in office, and I think that is also a little bit in a way like challenging as well. We just got Sarah Hannah Shrestha as a new assembly woman in office, which is really nice. But we need more support from electeds, and that would be like the second challenge. The other one is also like as folks have to work more because they can't afford to pay rent or put food on their table and stuff, they have less time to be involved and learn like what is happening and what can be done. So we're trying to make it as very, again, accessible to folks. Sometimes we do like Zoom things, sometimes we do in-person things. Sometimes, I tell them, I'm like, whenever you have a chance, come and talk with me. Like, just call me and tell me like, I will be there this day and this time and I will make everything to be there. To get you caught up on like maybe what you missed at the other community meeting, or get you caught up on what legislation we're fighting for next, or like what you can do. Sometimes folks are like, the only thing I can right now do is like sign a petition, and
well,
that's a big thing. Yeah,
that's something.
That's something.
That's
so
an important thing.
They come in and take petitions, and sometimes while they're there, then they're like, what? I know like 5 people that can sign this. I'll take them with me. I'll have them sign it, and I'll give it back to you. And that's how a lot of people get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, petitions are extremely important.
Yeah.
When I worked with the Woodstock Democratic Committee, I always loved going and getting petitions signed.
Mm-hmm.
That's not asking anybody to vote for anything.
Yeah.
It's just getting people to realize that something does need to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that petitions are excellent.
Yeah, we also do calls to electeds, so folks can do that from home. We provide folks a script of like what the legislation is about, a little template of, and then they put in their own words and stuff. And that really pushes electeds to, hear from their constituents.
Uh-huh.
And when we go to lobby these electeds, we can be like, we have folks calling your office. Mm-hmm. And sometimes their secretary take notes of like who called, how many, and stuff like that. So all that, and that only takes like 2 to 3 minutes. So.
Now, when you talk about going and lobbying to offices, where do you go?
So we go to Albany most of the time. Sometimes we do have to do like other actions, like in the city or Westchester, depending on like what elected we want to push. That we're trying to push, but Albany is like the most frequent one. Just this past month, I think we've been to Albany already for like 3 or 4 times, and we're gonna be there Monday again.
Yes.
And so we provide transportation, we provide lunch, we provide everything at no cost, and that's other ways folks can come in, and we go talk to electeds or do drop-ins and. Ask them to support the legislation where they're lobbying for. And we do this all with coalitions that are with other organizations as well. Mm-hmm.
Now, what about hunger? We've talked about several different things, but we haven't talked about hunger. What's happening with hunger?
So with hunger, unfortunately, we don't provide like services, and like we don't have like a food pantry or anything, but we really, when folks come to us and they're like, I have no food, we try to really like get them as soon as we can. Sometimes we even go buy the stuff and bring it to them, or there is a Kingston Emergency Collaborative Food, and so we call them and they get the food from them, or like Ulster Immigration Defense Network that has a food pantry. So we really, even though we don't provide services, we really try to like, we know folks and other organizations that do have these items and stuff, and so we really try to like refer them to those organizations.
So what you're telling me is that even though you don't do food pantries, you know where the food pantries are.
Yep.
And so if a person comes to you and they need food, you know how to point them in the direction for food. Because you know that's a huge service.
Yes.
Because a person could need food.
Yes.
And it could take 40 or 50 telephone calls before you find a food pantry that's open that you can get to. Whereas if you have a list,
Yeah.
then you can provide that service for them.
Yeah.
So
And then
that's huge.
in Kingston, we have several blue fridges, they're called. So that's a place where folks can, at any time of the day, and so they can come and drop off stuff as to donate. And then at any time and day, folks can go and grab what they need.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, and they're distributed like in different areas of the city in Kingston.
That's important. Now, I don't know whether the schools in Kingston, the elementary schools, have universal breakfasts or not.
So, I mean, my kids are in that district, and as far as I know, I don't pay for their lunch. They have free meals.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so I don't pay for breakfast or lunch. They are provided that.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
That is one of the most important things for a child's education. And people do not understand it. There are a lot of people, when you talk to them about free school lunches and free school breakfasts, immediately they start seeing it's going to cost money, it's going to, and that is not true. Children are not always hungry when they wake up. And so they get ready to go to school, and they go to school and they wouldn't eat their breakfast, or they didn't eat enough of their breakfast, and then they get to school, and after they've been awake about an hour and a half, then they get hungry.
Yeah.
And this is normal. And so if you're really interested in children learning, you're going to have nutritional food available. That doesn't mean eggs and cereal, but it could mean muffins, it could mean oatmeal, it could mean, yogurt, something.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the same thing is true for lunch.
Yeah.
Children have clocks.
Yeah.
And they have physical clocks. And if you are a school that offers the lunches and the breakfast, then you're going to be tuned in to what these children's needs are.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I have 3 children, and they're in the Kingston City School District, and I have one of my son that doesn't like eating breakfast, so he doesn't go to breakfast, and I have the other one that is like very excited to go to breakfast in the morning. So yeah, it really depends on the children, like how hungry they get or what their appetite is.
But I think that's very important.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that having the breakfast and having the lunch is as important as discussing whether you're going to teach history or English or math. That is very important.
Yeah.
We are learning now that children have times when it's important. I mean, when it's better to teach them mathematics, it's better to feed them, it's better to have physical therapy. These things are extremely important.
Yeah.
So you guys are tuned into what is best for the children. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, again, as a parent, I really try my best to get involved as much as I can. Sometimes it's hard because there's other things happening in the community. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that the Kingston City School District they're also trying their best to really give the families and the children what they need, what their needs are.
That's great. Yeah. So, what is your primary focus for the many?
So, as of right now, we're in because of the legislative session is on until June. We're more focused on state level work, and so the first campaign that we're trying to win is the good cause eviction legislation at state level. And again, that prevents unlawfully evictions, and it also prevents rent increase of no more than 5%. So that is a big legislation that we really need. The second piece of legislation that the coalition we just joined is called Raise Up New York, and it's to raise the minimum wage to $21 for 2026, and then tie it up to inflation rate for 2027. And by that time, that way the whole state will be on the same page of minimum wage. Because right now, like, the minimum wage is different in New York City than upstate New York. So that's another campaign that we're trying to get. And then the other one is called Public Renewables Act, or the New York Renews. And this is this would provide create like green energy, but it would for the public, and it would be like much cheaper than having Central Hudson, because right now Central Hudson is like the biggest issue. A lot of people, like, they're billing. A lot of folks got thousands of dollars in bills over.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's been a real challenge.
Yes. So that is the other piece of state level legislation that we're trying to get. And at local level, we're trying to get some Airbnb regulations in Kingston. So, the crisis and the situation doesn't get like more bigger than it is. The problem doesn't get bigger than it is already. So we're trying to do that at local level. So we have a lot of campaigns that we're trying to get passed.
Well, I should think that if you're trying to do Airbnbs, that you really need to do that statewide or district-wide, because I don't see how you can add too many more Airbnbs, because there's no houses left. All the houses are Airbnbs.
Yeah. The thing is that also too, like, a lot of and I'm gonna talk about like myself. So at my home, I own my home, thankfully. I got my home before like the prices of the homes went like skyrocketing. And so in the mail, I received so much mail literature where they like encourage me to like sell my home.
Absolutely.
Right? And so a lot of
and
people
then where
are
are you
like,
going to go?
Yeah. And so, but a lot of folks are like, well, maybe I can sell it and, go to Florida, or, like, and then the people that buy it is not, a family that has been in Kingston. It's people that either live in another state, or like, are developers that their main goal is like profit. So if there's a family that, trying to buy a house of 200,000, there comes this developer or this wealthier person, and they're like, oh, I'll give you 300. Who are they gonna give it to? Right. So that takes a lot also, like, from the opportunity from folks to own their home. So with the Airbnb, right now we have over probably 200 Airbnbs in Kingston. And so,
I think you have more than that.
Well, just in the city of Kingston. Yeah, like in the surrounding areas, it's like way more. It's like, I don't know, like 500, because we do a lot of the search on the website. But yeah, we're really trying to get like more regulation, with them, because a lot of people are just, they're like, oh yeah, they kick out the family and then they rent it every night, and then that family is, living in their car or on the streets and nowhere to go. So we're trying to, and yes, it would be amazing to pass it at state level, because that is, but we also have to be realistic that these people have like a lot of money, and they, they're gonna do anything. They're gonna use all the resources to make sure that does not happen. And with the good cause eviction already, they put a lot of money behind to make sure that legislation did not pass last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and the people have the power, the people have the power, but it takes a really long time to get the people to understand that they do have power. Because
That
that's
is-
another thing.
That is the biggest challenge you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you start talking to somebody and they understand the issues that they face and they realize the obstacles are so large that it's very easy to say, I can't do this.
No,
You
there,
know.
I talk to a lot of people. They're like, "What difference does it make that I get involved?" It does make a difference.
Yes,
It does make a big difference, because electeds, all they see is like votes, money, power, right? And if we, the people, can elect them to be in office, we can also make sure that they're not in office if they don't do what the community members are asking for.
I think that's very, very important. And one of the things that I learned, and it just hit me like a whack on the side of the head, is I had a guest on the show, a young woman by the name of Sarah Hanna.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yes. And Sarah Hanna was running for office. And of course, everybody was saying, she's too young, blah, 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 blah. Forget it. And she came on, and like you, she was talking in a different way. Because Sarah Hanna is not a politician. Sarah Hanna is an activist.
Yeah.
So when a group of activists get together, they become more powerful, I believe, than politicians. Because politicians are interested in votes and money blocks and things
Yeah.
like that. And activists are they're concerned about schools and housing and healthcare. I mean, it's a completely
Yes.
different thing.
Yeah.
The results come together, but an activist approaches it in a different way.
Yeah.
I found her to be so refreshing.
Yeah, and thankfully now she's our assembly representative
Yes,
for Kingston.
yes.
So, we endorse Sarah Hanna. As
Well,
the
the thing about Sarah Hanna is that she has a mindset and she has a vocabulary, and you're not going to take that away from her.
Yeah.
She may become the
Yeah.
president of the United States, but you're
Right.
still not going to take that away from her.
Yeah.
It's like the vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris. She is an attorney. And when you talk to her and listen to her, you realize that you're talking to and listening to an attorney.
Yeah.
She may be the vice president, but she's a lawyer,
Yeah.
And so that's what we really want. We really want activists.
Yeah.
And the more people that you can recruit to join you as an activist, the more powerful you will become.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yes. Yes. I mean, Sarah Hanna unseated someone that was there for a long time. Why? Because she really talked about the issues.
Right.
It wasn't about like, I'm here, please vote for me.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's like, what issues matter to you? Like, what are you going through right now?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, how are we gonna be able to like fight together?
Yeah.
And that's what people chose.
It was a whole different way.
Yeah.
And so when you have activist groups such as yours, then you have people working as a coalition to work for things. And how is healthcare going to improve now with For the Many?
So with healthcare, it's also we're going against like big industry like pharmaceutical insurance companies, like all these big things. But we are fighting for the newer Healthcare Act, which is like a one single payer system where everyone is covered, regardless of status, regardless of family size, regardless of a lot of things that play into having insurance right now.
Tell me more about this.
So with that, there would be like no like co-pays, no deductibles, no like crazy billings from like hospitals or doctors, or like hidden fees from, because medical debt is like a big, huge thing. Like a lot of people are in medical debt. And there's like really no way to like get out, because like if you just go to the hospital, right, for like, I don't know, like a 2-hour thing, your bill comes to already like $10,000 just to like be
Oh,
there.
you got to be kidding! $10,000. My daughter just finished a couple of hours in an emergency room at Albany Med. $10,000 won't get both feet in the emergency room.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at maybe $100,000
Yeah.
for a couple of hours.
Yeah. And
Because of the machines and
like everything. Yeah.
and everybody really cares, and they're doing the best job, and they don't care what things cost. They just say, what is the best thing that we can do? And then when it's all over, you look at this bill, and it's enormous. You can't count the zeros,
Yeah, the zeros. And so like the New York healthcare, like it's really important that we fight for it. And again, it's something where, electeds are, some of them say like, yeah, I'm for this and that, but they're not gonna choose that over like, their big donors. Their big donors are like from
So how are you going to find out more about this New York Health?
So the coalition with like the person that is gonna introduce it in the Senate and in the Assembly, they get together and they kind of like strategize like who is in it already like in favor, or like who co-sponsored this last year, or who's a maybe, and then kind of like find ways to like push those elected to like do it again. And then from that, that's when we come into like going to Albany, like doing press conferences, doing rallies, doing like so many other things that is to push these electeds to do it. So it has, the coalition is kind of going through like a reconstruction of like everything right now. So once that is settled, then we're gonna they think about like next big steps of like how to make that
Because I think healthcare is huge.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't, and of course this would not be a good way to do it, but truthfully, if you just stopped thinking about healthcare in general and say took heart disease or diabetes, if you just took diabetes and started dealing with diabetes, you could save millions.
Yeah. My mom, and as a personal story, my husband was diagnosed with diabetes, and he was put on metformin, with like and he actually last year didn't have health insurance, so he was paying out of pocket. But there was this medication that a doctor prescribed that was very important. And when I went to go pick it up, they're like, well, we didn't fill it because I don't think that you can pay for it. And I was like, why? And they're like, oh, because it costs $2,000 for 1 month supply. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, it's very expensive. And he ended up not being able to get his medication for that because it was a lot of money.
So what are you doing?
So he's still on his metformin, and thankfully now, like through my job, he's able to get health insurance. So he just started in January. So yeah, now he's gonna go to the doctor, and hopefully, with that he can be able to like cover it and stuff. But like that's what it comes to. Like a lot of folks don't have insurance at all, and they have to pay out of pocket. And
Well, and that has a huge impact on people individually, because you can get a job, and you can get a job that pays pretty well, because now in Ulster County, a job that pays $20 an hour, that's real. But to get that company to give you benefits, to get that company to hire you for enough hours every week that you can qualify for benefits.
yeah,
They'd rather have 2 or 3 employees that work 5 hours less each and not pay benefits.
yeah,
And I can appreciate that. I can understand, in the accounting department, somebody figuring that out. But I can also see that there is an ethical, and there, more than that, when your employees are healthy, when your employees are well, they're gonna work better.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I am very blessed to have a good job, a lot of support from the organization, everything, and it's if I am blessed to have this and sometimes still struggling. I can already imagine people that are don't have a job or are getting paid minimum wage, and it's horrible.
I was talking to a young woman the other day who had a job at a store in Kingston, and they had cut her hours, and I realized what was happening. And she was really young, and I'm not sure that she really did. But they had cut her hours to 15 hours a week. Well, she's not going to get any benefits. So she was trying to figure out what to do, and I was talking to her about how, she was going to have to look for another job, and she should negotiate in the beginning that they're going to pay her at least 30 hours a week. She's going to work 30 hours a week or more. And, right from the beginning, just otherwise, it's February, they cut everybody back to 15 hours.
Yeah. A lot of employers do that, and why? Because they can. Yeah, they can, and again, the medical thing is a lot of money.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's very, and beyond a certain age, when you are over 50, it's very hard to get a job that will pay you benefits. Because the benefits are very expensive. So it's a real challenge. And you say that there is a thing called New York Health?
Yeah, the New York Healthcare Act.
The New York Healthcare Act.
Yep.
Is that going to be voted on this year?
So because of the coalition going a reconstruction and the kind of the landscape of the political in Albany right now, it might we're probably continue doing petitions and press conference and stuff, but we also don't want to tell people oh yeah, it's gonna pass this year, when we know that it might not. So it's a multiple year campaign.
Absolutely. When something has a huge win, when it is going to change a lot of things, you cannot expect to just walk into Albany on Monday and get it done by, maybe next year, maybe the year after.
Yeah.
But you have to have a group that's willing to stick with it to the very end.
Yeah.
So how do you find volunteers that are willing to work over the long haul?
Yeah, so I mean, we do door knocking when we were doing door knocking for Sarah Hannah. We met a lot of folks that were wow, we love the work you guys do, and they come to community meetings, and then from there, we put out the options of how they can help out, and then folks sign up, and then we have them come in the office, or I also do phone banking every day, to a list of folks, and we have a conversation of again who we are, and if they would be interested to get involved. We also have our amazing social media that is run by our comms person, and our digital Ash, who's amazing, and we have Instagram, Facebook, because social media is a big thing. But yeah, most of the volunteers come from just being out there in the community and talking to them about what we're trying to win and accomplish.
I don't know about Facebook, but you did show up on my email. A big story showed up on my email a couple of days ago.
Oh yeah,
and it was a nice story. It was a very nice story, but it didn't show up in. I used to be much more into. I don't have the time anymore. I used to be much more involved. Are you in LinkedIn?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I used to be much more involved, and it's just after a while, I have so much time in the day, and that's it. Yeah. Especially now that since my daughter was in that accident, I just don't have that much time anymore. But I do feel like recruiting more people is extremely important.
Yeah.
So what, if a person is interested, where can they go?
They can, again, look us up as For the Many in any social media platform. They can go to our website at forthemany.org. Over there it lists like all the campaigns and everything that we're working on. And they can come to our Kingston office on 13 Grand Street. They can contact me through Facebook as Diana Martinez. They can also, give me a call.
You're on Grand Street, so that means you're over there by
The medical offices.
the medical
Yeah.
offices. That is a very good place to be.
Yeah.
Because everybody goes to the medical offices.
Yeah.
You may not go there but once a year, but you know where it is.
Yeah.
So if you can tell somebody will just be there, plus there's parking.
Oh yeah, there's parking.
And the
in
bus is
front.
there, it's all there,
Yeah.
right together.
The YMCA is
Right,
there.
everything is
Yeah.
there. That's really, when you think about the hub, that's really where it is in Kingston.
Yeah, it's very accessible to like uptown, midtown, downtown. Very like centric. It used to be a beverage discount store.
It doesn't matter what it used to be. What matters is it's near the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's Kingston High School. It's near where everything is.
Yeah, it's very centric.
So, what about healthcare in Kingston?
Whew. So yeah, I mean, that's a
challenge.
that's a challenge. But yeah, it's something that.
Well, when you talk about that's a challenge, the whole thing is a challenge.
Yeah.
What is your number one priority?
The housing.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yeah.
That goes beyond immigration. It goes beyond gun control. It goes beyond it goes beyond everything.
Yeah. If someone doesn't have a stable housing, everything after that is like, the mental, the physical
Right.
stress, everything.
If they don't have housing, they don't have the whole focus.
Yeah.
Is you get up in the morning and you go after the DSS, and then you spend all day at the DSS, and then you go to, and it's just,
Yeah.
and there's no new apartments coming up. And RUPCO is working, and different groups are
Yeah.
working, but still.
It's not enough, and it's not fast enough.
Right. And when we go back past the Tech City, I think, if somebody had grabbed a hold of this Tech City 10 years ago, we wouldn't have these problems.
Yeah.
But vision,
Yeah.
it takes vision.
Vision. Yeah. Yep. But hopefully good cause eviction at state level is looking pretty good from from the sources we have. So hopefully it can pass. By June or before June.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you say that out loud?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully good cause eviction happens at June, before June, but hopefully it will be this year. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of electeds are like, oh, that's a New York City thing. It is not everything they say it's a New York City thing. It is not a New York City thing. It is a whole state. It's the whole state.
You've just said the most important thing that you said the whole hour. You've just said it right there. If you had sat down at this table saying that, you would have that is the important thing. The division between the city and upstate is gone.
Yeah.
That has gone.
Yeah.
The pandemic did that.
Yeah.
It leveled the whole crew.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah. So now everything has to be leveled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that I see that as a positive thing. I don't see that as negative.
No, yeah, it's we even before I started organizing, I didn't know that there was like so much difference between New York City and upstate. And now that I'm involved, it's like wow, it's very different. But at the end of the day, it's like everyone's going through the same situation. So.
Right.
You know,
We all have the same problems.
There shouldn't be a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
We all have the same problems.
Yeah.
So, and if you're working for it, and if people who are interested will join you and go to the meetings and get to know one another, and signing the petitions.
Yeah, signing
is
the
so
petition, calling your legislator, your representative. You know, if you have the time, coming to Albany with us. We do also press conferences. Yeah.
That is another big thing. You will take people with you to Albany.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, depending on the number of folks we have buses, we have vans, or sometimes even in our own cars, we go to Albany. But yeah.
That's extremely important.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that, but you do need to go to Albany. You need to see it. You need to see that office.
Yeah.
You need to see where that person's desk is, and that person needs to see you. And he needs to see the bus parked outside.
Yeah.
He needs to see the bus parked outside.
Yeah, it's the best feeling because, you know, there's folks from all over the state that come on that same day. And you see, you know, everyone there together, like, wow, like, you know, we're here, we're fighting for each other. And I just want to share this. Like, so we were there on, it was January. We've been there so many dates. But we were there for we were going to be there for the good cause eviction legislation. Oh, it was at the day of the state of the state where the governor gives, you know, her speech and her priorities. So we had like this plan, but then she knew that we were coming, that the coalition was coming. So she decided to close the Capitol. So she closed the Capitol, but she, you know, like that's our home. Like,
yeah,
you know, everything from there is like the money the taxes that we pay for. So we end up being in the legislative building. But like that gives you the idea of like, wow, like, you know, she is afraid of us going to Albany, you know, because people do have the power.
Listen, girl, we are down to 3 minutes. Tell everybody with these last 3 minutes how they can get in touch with you. Look straight at that camera. Say, reach me, join me.
Reach me at, in our Kingston office at 13 Grand Street. Again, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And we hold monthly meetings, and the next one is February 23rd. We also do other activities, like we're gonna be hosting a movie night, a sip and paint, you know, just a lot of activities where we want community members to come and know each other and, you know, talk about what we can do to make a lot of these just legislations pass and be a reality to help our communities.
To build community, to build a sense of community.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you for the gifts.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You definitely have touched my heart. And very definitely, I hope that you'll come back again in several months and tell me about all the things that have been happening.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
And thank you very much for Ellen. Thank you very much, Ellen. We enjoy it. And you can also see this program on YouTube. Let's Live with Thurman Greco.